What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my Saturday morning edition of Sin's Chat Corner. Typically, of course, we don't usually do a weekend guest, but in this particular case, it was highly warranted, just because of the fact, of course, that Clara and I have tried to coordinate this interview actually more than one time. So my apologies to her, of course. I feel absolutely terrible for having to prolong this twice. But fortunately, we went ahead and we clicked. The nice part about Clara is and if you listen to my show before, you know that I am a huge advocate of promoting Canadians. And so, of course, she's a Canadian, and she is an amazing Canadian for all the different things she's done. She's an actress, she's an activist, she's a playwright, she's a screenwriter. She recently won an award this very last year. She was bestowed upon that from Canada. We're going to get into that during the course of our conversation today, so I'm very, very excited. I wanted to do a quick note before we started the show, and I posted this up on Facebook. If you're a friend of mine, you can see this, which is over the course of the next month, I'd like to plan 3 social issue shows, and by that I mean, of course, and I've mentioned this, one of which being domestic abuse, and that's something near and dear to my heart, no thanks to this affecting one of my friends very recently and others that I know. So it's very important to me that I plan these out and plan them carefully and do them in the best manner I know how. So one will be on domestic abuse, and that could be for males or females. It's not gender specific. The second of which is, of course, even closer to my heart, which is, of course, finding individuals who are parents to kids that have seizure disorders. Because, of course, if you follow me, you know that my son, of course, suffers from that. So I think that that will be insightful and helpful to all of us, especially those of us who are struggling to raise kids in that manner. And then third of all, the third and last one is we're going to be doing an episode on dating. The good parts, the bad parts. I'm here to tell you that I've had some good parts and I've had some bad parts, and I think it would be interesting to talk about. It would be interesting to get mutual opinions as far as what other individuals think or what their beliefs and feelings are on this, because I know I can't be the only person that's out there that's trying to date and not finding a quality individual. So if you have any information for me or if you have any suggestions, you can go ahead and give me a email, which is sin4251@gmail.com. And you can also go ahead and leave me a message on my show page. And that would be on Blog Talk Radio, or otherwise you can go ahead and you can do a standardized website message, which is sinchatcorner1.yolasite.com. Any of those places I will go ahead and find it. If you're on Facebook, you can go ahead and friend me, or if you're a friend already, you can go ahead and leave me a message. Any and all of those manners would work perfectly fine as far as that goes. So, without further ado, we should have Clara on the line very shortly. She's just about to call in. I will go ahead and make a posting up about next week's shows, only because we've had a little change as far as the itinerary and the roster. So I will make sure to go ahead and get you guys updated on that. There will be 4 shows for next week, and I do believe we're going to premiere the Sun Spotlight show. I'm not 100% positive. My guess would be actor David Fernandez Jr. will be our first guest, but I'm in the process of working on that as we speak. So as soon as I get the information, I'll forward the information along to you. It'll be also on my Facebook page, and it'll also be on my show page. So with any luck at all of you will be able to check out 1 or 2 or 4. We always appreciate it. 4 is better. And just a quick note as a reminder, I'm going to be heading out to California March 27th to March 30th. March 29th will be my event at the Reyes Winery. I will be posting information on that on my page as well. And I'd appreciate it if any and all of you could come. Erica Bonilla, who is a beautiful musician, is going to be performing that day, and we'll be doing some live interviews, and we'll be doing the book signing. So I'm really very excited to get you individuals out there and meet me, and we get a chance to meet you, and it would be a very exciting venture for all of us. So I'd appreciate your patronage as far as that goes. And there'll be other dates that are coming up. I know that we're in the works for looking at May for doing my Canada. We're also looking for other individuals to participate in some of the other signings. I'll be doing Colorado and so on and so forth. So we'll see how it goes. So without further ado, finally, we have Clara on the line. Let's get the interview going. Clara, you found me.
Hi.
Hi, we're finally connected.
Yeah,
How are you?
Great. I'm very well, thank you.
Yes, it is. Because I have to tell you that I have been looking at your page and looking at you and looking at all of your work and thinking, oh my gosh, you're just a dainty little tiny thing. If anyone has ever looked at Clara, she's so tiny and small. And just this beautiful, perfect little package. I just had to say that. You really are very precious.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I kind of have a prelude to kind of let everybody know a little bit about you. So I'm going to read a little bit about this and we'll start getting going on the questions here. As I call her, Clara the Canadian, you are beloved by your brethren of fellow friends, actors, and co-stars alike. You're recognizably refreshing and have a great repertoire within the film industry, and you're just a classic catch for viewers on television. Your written works have embodied the sentiment of a seasoned scripter, and you're quick to never neglect those who've aided you in all of your accolades to date. You're the girl who surely states, I don't want a normal social life, has truly achieved that goal. So, as you're a native of Canada, maybe let's first dish on your views on the media, and I'm interested to get your take on this. I was watching a formal interview that was done with, and I'm sure you know Kiefer Sutherland and his mother, Shirley Douglas.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I've spoken.
Oh, really?
I spoke just after Shirley Douglas, actually, when we were talking to the government about a bill to protect child informers a couple months ago, actually. She's a lovely woman, yeah. She's really lovely.
Oh, my gosh, yes. And she's so dainty and so lovely. Oh, my gosh, yes. And she had done this interview, and she had talked about just the regard of the CBC offering star status to its own, kind of leaving me with the impression that the artistic types in your country kind of struggle for getting exposure. So I know you've been on the CBC before as a guest, and maybe you can just elaborate on this point. Meaning, how often is there crossover coverage, meaning between Canada and U.S., and how effective do you think the CBC does in terms of helping its own?
Well, you know, I think that I wouldn't isolate the problem with building the Canadian star system to the CBC by any means. I think the CBC is doing a better job than several other networks. But I think one of the big problems with building a Canadian star system in general is there's little details that don't make it easy for the normal everyday public to even know who the names of their stars are. Sort of a common analogy is when someone is well known, they're sitting in an airport and someone will look at them and say, hey, like, you're that guy, but nobody knows their name, or maybe they get their character name, but nobody knows who they are. They're like, I know you from and nobody actually can say their name because there are things like stars' names in this country aren't on a poster, in the way shows are sort of promoted. I think actually, in my opinion, certain things that CBC has been doing lately have been quite positive. Building, they did something called Fan Zone for the Canadian Screen Awards, and they started to promote Canadian shows more. For instance, when you look at a show like Murdoch Mysteries, which I did, I guest starred on Murdoch Mysteries the first season that CBC had picked it up. It was originally on a different network. And when CBC picked it up, they really started to promote it. And the numbers, in fact, doubled. The viewership doubled. And it was directly, of course, because of how much CBC was promoting it and bringing it in onto Twitter and all of these sorts of strategies. So I wouldn't say I would fault CBC specifically, but the general mentality of not building stars' names,
Gotcha. And now, alternatively, on the flip side, and I'm not sure how well you can address this, of course, because I'm assuming that you have friends or cohorts or individuals that can speak to this. On the flip side, because obviously I'm in the U.S., but I'm here to tell you, well, I'm in Wisconsin, so I'm in one state, for instance. I can tell you that media is a...
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hi, Clara. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened.
This happened. The other day, this happened to another guest, as a matter of fact. We were just sitting and talking, and I had
our conversations are just too big.
I know. It's like there's like 5 cast members on, and they're all talking to each other, and then I'm like, did you even notice I was gone for like 2 minutes? Because for some reason the call got dropped, and it just happened, so I apologize there. So we were talking on the flip side there in terms of the U.S. Have you gotten feedback, or how do you think we're doing, respectively, in terms of promoting the Canadian side of things?
Well, I don't think that the U.S. in general particularly tries to promote the Canadian side particularly. And, you know, that kind of makes sense because, you know, we're businesses. I think that we think like, oh, like the arts, and we are like supporting we want our industry to grow. The Americans want their industry to grow. So that makes sense. However, there are a lot of Canadian American co-productions that are being promoted a lot more. There's a lot of stuff that's half U.S. finance that's shot here that's being promoted a lot more. And the interesting thing is there's a lot of shows that are also just Canadian that have a huge amount of fans in America that have been just simply picked up by an American network, even though it's not financed by America at all, that are actually doing really, really well. And the curious thing is with individual stars or with shows that sometimes in our country it takes someone to become a bigger star in another country who is a Canadian, who to become a bigger name in another country for us to realize, oh, maybe we should pay attention to that person. So it's a really strange thing that we're in. But I think that ultimately if we can just sort of recognize, if Americans can just sort of recognize and celebrate the shows that they love, and not think like, oh, we should or shouldn't promote this because of sort of what country it's from, is really the best for everyone, really.
Exactly. I agree. And, you know, like I said, you know, I find it amazing that through the course of an interview, just watching that interview with Shirley Douglas, that was the whole reason I started this third Canadian show. It was just that. I was like, really? So she's kind of broadcasting the world and saying, hey, they need some more exposure. So now I'm working on doing the cross-coverage thing, which is I'll do my shows here. I'll collaborate with someone in Canada. Hopefully I can redo them over there, meaning they can broadcast them there, broadcast them here. You get dual coverage. And I think to myself, you Canadians are lovely. I just don't understand why more people aren't kind of pushing to be like, let's get them out there. You know what I mean? Because you're fascinating, and you're intelligent, and you're intriguing, and all you people drink that same Kool-Aid, because every one of you is gorgeous. I'm telling you, there is no ugly Canadian, and I'm not lying about that. I'm going to go on record to say that. It's very true. Take a good look. I'm telling you, there's no ugly Canadians. It's right. Okay, I want to kind of flip sides a little bit here, because I was noticing, of course, there are a couple similarities between us. Obviously, of course, you're a writer. I myself am an author. But we also have been asked, both of us, I recently was asked to sit on a panel as a judge for a film festival in California, Studio City Film Festival. And I know, of course, yours was the Toronto Black Film Festival. So this is my first experience as being a judge. Was this your first experience as well? And, of course, in your opinion, maybe tell me a little bit about what you think makes a film festival, or excuse me, a film festival worthy. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I will say that particularly when I wasn't judging the films, that I was speaking to a few different issues. I have been an adjudicator in other things, but I can still speak to sort of what makes a film worthy. For me, I think if you leave a film and you feel somehow more connected to our own humanity, I think that's what makes a successful film. If there was a moment where you watched it and you felt something move inside your breath, that sort of feeling it viscerally. If you were left and you were thinking about something in your own life, a relationship in your own life, if you were left thinking about someone you love who might be struggling with something, if you were left with maybe just a little bit more empathy for someone else, if you were left realizing that, you know, maybe it's not all so bad, there is joy in the world, and isn't life amazing. I think just really it's the films that remind us that we're human, that we're fallible, and we're all sort of navigating through this crazy thing called life. And sometimes that comes in humor and lighter things, and sometimes that comes in themes that are even more dramatic or more profound. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I've kind of noticed that myself, actually. I was watching a short, and a lot of the ones that I'm judging are shorts, you know, no more than maybe 35 minutes. And isn't it interesting how a short film can have such a large impact You know, they can put in so much into the character, into the meaning, into the message in such a short period. And some of these films, even though they're students, are just so well produced. I mean, I'm in awe of the talent that bestows that. It's amazing to me, and I'm so honored and so lucky. I'm a pretty tough judge, though, I have to say. I'm feeling kind of guilty. These poor people are probably thinking, oh, she hates me. I haven't really doled out anything that was like really high up yet, so I need practice yet. As far as you, because of course you've done film before, you yourself, the process as it relates to submitting to film festivals, are you ever really apprehensive or nervous, or do you ever say to yourself, you know what, this isn't good enough? I mean, is there a lot? What is that process like for you? Or are you just kind of, you've been in the loop long enough where you're like, okay, we're going to film it, we're going to submit it, we're going to hope for the best, and that's that? Or is there ever that apprehension or fear that you're up against competitors? And explain that process.
Well, I just produced my second film that I'd actually written. And for me, I think like from the get-go, because I wrote both of the films that I've produced, I think from the get-go, like I wouldn't have made the film if I didn't think it was a story worth telling and worth having a discourse about it, because that's why I do what I do, to open up a discourse. So for me, I always had like at least, no matter what happened in this crazy experiment we call filmmaking, I knew that no matter what happened, to me, I felt like the story was worth telling. And then I go about telling it in a process that is worth it to me. So for me, both of the films that I've produced actually, the way we went about the filmmaking process, there's a big emphasis on mentorship and on bridging the gap between different age and experience cohorts, and having a really meaningful way of filmmaking. So, for instance, I just produced an animated film that's going to go to a festival in April, and my animators are 17 or 18 years old. So we're doing Me and Julie, that's the name of the film. And I was like, you know, I don't know how this is going to turn out. I've never produced an animated film, but either way, like we're doing this mentorship thing, and these 17 or 18-year-old girls are getting this opportunity to do something they've never done before. I'm doing something I've never done before. My collaborator, Jujube, is doing something she's never done before, and we had another sort of female mentor, Marilyn, mentoring us. So it was like, you know, no matter what, the process is win-win. And I think I sort of started to take that kind of approach to my career in general. Like when I do auditions now, if I leave the audition and I've done everything that I wanted to do and I'm happy with the work, then I can actually be happy with it and not think, oh, like, did I get it, that sort of thing. And stepping away from that and being like, I've done all that I could do and I'm really happy with the process of that work. And then, you know, what happens. And I mean, you try and find which you submit to which film festivals you think yours fits in, because there's certain festivals that will have more of a place for your film than others. Lots of film festivals have different themes that they tend to like and that sort of thing. But if you're happy with the process that you did it under, then that's kind of the only way to really be and to be able to move on to the next project. I find a lot, because I'm so busy doing so many projects at once, if I stayed and lingered on something and wondered like, oh, is it good enough? Is it whatnot? I think is it good enough is no longer a question that's my job to answer. My job is to do the work and not think, is it good enough? Because that's not my job. And B, I would just not be able to put all of my energy into the next thing if I stayed lingering on the last thing, wondering like, is it good? When the work is sort of already complete. So, you know, there are film festivals that I've submitted for that I've had almost like no chance of getting in, but I've submitted because I'm like, and maybe it does get in, because you don't know, and you'll never know unless you do it. So you spend the whatever money on the ones that you dream about, because you never know. Like I had a film that wasn't that I not that I produced, but that I acted in, that went to Cannes, and maybe they thought there's no way our film's going to go to Cannes, but we'll submit it anyway. What the hell? And there you go. So it's a balance of like, risk-taking. And,
and this is an interesting. this just came to me, or I was just sitting here thinking about this, because of course, obviously in the States as compared to Canada, I know things are a bit different. Have you noticed, and this is within the film festival thing, because I know here, of course, like we just had the Oscars and we had all the, the larger award shows. And a lot of times people talk about the politics involved with it. What we find here in America, of course, is, well, at least my take is, I watch the Oscars, and the nominations come in, and typically 9 times out of 10, you're talking a big budget film that's usually produced by somebody with a big name, who's got big names in it, and there's a lot of big money behind it. I.e., the point being, indie artists have a tremendously difficult time getting the highest accolades, or in their own mind, they all dream about the Oscar and such. So on the flip side over there, on the Canadian side, do you find that, and whether it's film festival or award programs, is it highly political? I mean, talk a little bit about that. Do you find that to be the norm over there as well, or is this more of a USA thing?
Well, I mean, sure, you can't say there's definitely not an element of politics, but I mean, okay. For instance, something like the Canadian Screen Awards, which I sat on the jury for one of the categories for, I really liked the way they did it. Like I sat on the jury for a category, and I didn't know for sure who was going to win because of the stages that they do it. In certain parts you talk about, in certain parts are secret. And I was pretty happy with the way that went, and they sort of had on their jury, they had people from a variety of backgrounds who some of us happened to know each other, some of us didn't, coming and sitting sort of on the jury. So I don't, and you have to sign a whole bunch of stuff, like if you feel like you have any conflicts with any of the nominees, that sort of thing. So I was happy with the way they sort of went about that process. Okay. In terms of, in general, is there politics in film festivals? I don't really think of it as, I mean, I guess you could say there is, but I don't really think of it as politics. I think of it more as the connections that you make to people do matter. So I look at, I have a few friends that, and myself also, that have gone to had a film in the same film festival for multiple years in a row. The film festival keeps asking us back because we have a really strong connection there. And because it's not just, oh, they're giving you a slot, oh, thank you. It's also you're building a relationship. You're giving them something too. You're saying, here's my film, and here is the sold-out house that I've just brought for your film festival, and they're giving you a platform. So it is sort of a partnership. So, for instance, we have a film festival here called the Real World Film Festival, which is, I think, the biggest multicultural film festival in Toronto. And myself and several of my colleagues at a committee that I chair called at Actor Toronto have had a slate of those films in that festival for 2 years in a row because they really like programming our films because we promote the festival in a major way, and we bring a lot of people out to the festival and get it a lot of attention. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. So I'd say it's not as much politics as, sometimes you making these connections play off. Of course, you could say that when a huge filmmaker wants his film at a festival, like maybe, politics does get involved, maybe. But you can label it whatever you want, I guess.
I understand. And thank you for that. I've been curious about that, like I said. Now that I'm getting more into the film aspect of things, I find myself a little more intrigued with that sort of things. Thank you. Now I want to note that Clara can be found canvassing her country, jumping from ceremony to ceremony, and examples of this being your delightful dresses that hit the red carpet at the Canadian Screen Canadian Screen Awards, the Canadian Screen Week, the Brentford Film Festival, and the ACTRA Awards. Now, if you could maybe differentiate the difference, or have you, as it relates to award shows in general, maybe let's start with that, because of course, to the novice out there, not everybody knows what ACTRA is. So maybe talk a little bit about what that is and what the mission of it, what is its mission, I should say.
What ACTRA is? Well, ACTRA is the Performers Union. So ACTRA is the Union for Performers in Radio, Television, and Film in Canada. So it's basically like SAG-AFTRA, except it's in Canada. So it's a union of performers. It's a union of performers, and whenever we work on a set, you're under a union contract. You're protected by collective agreements that they have with our Guild of Producers, which is called the CNPA. And it means that you get certain protections on set. It means that the producers put money in for retirement and health insurance and all those sorts of things. And the union also does a lot of work in promoting the industry. They also have a lot of partnerships with a bunch of other industry players like Film Ontario and a whole bunch of other industry players, and they make the industry stronger and better and promote Canadian talent and hold a bunch of amazing events for their members. And then for me, which is a youth committee in Actor Toronto, which I chair, we do a bunch of things to promote the industry as well, and we also share resources, have a lot of panels and events and bring in special guests. It's social, and we also create a lot of content now, and a lot of the films that we've made are really doing the festival circuit, and people are applying to different grants and creating more work, really. Yeah.
Wonderful. And if I were to ask you your specific, and I know that you've been more active than the average individual as it relates to actors, is that correct? Because I think I've seen postings and other different things that your participation. Tell the folks exactly, or more specifically, I should say, what your role is with them.
Well, it sort of started, before I was the chair of the youth committee, I was really interested in politics and in general. When I was about 15, I just wanted to be a lawyer in the UN, a human rights lawyer, or I wanted to be an actor. And I felt guilty that I'd made what I thought was like the selfish choice for a long time. And then I realized that there was more than one way to change the world, and I could be an actor and I could change the world through the work itself. But then later, I realized that I could change the industry for the better, and I could make these types of changes. I could use the skills and desires I'd always sort of had politically to make our industry better and to make it possible for more Canadian stories that matter to be told. So I was asked first to talk to the provincial government in Ontario when ACTRA had sent several performers and staff to have these meetings with MPPs, so members of provincial parliament. And we had several asks of things that ACTRA was looking for to make the lives of performers in our province better and to make the cultural industry stronger. So that was the first time. Then I was asked to go to Ottawa to talk to MPs, so members of parliament and senators, twice more since then. And we would talk to them about funding for things like Telefilm, which is a major film funding body, the CBC, and a variety of other players, and that we'd several asks. And then the most recently, in I believe it was November, there's a bill that's currently between second and third reading in the provincial parliament called Bill 71. So the bill is to protect child performers on sets and stages in our province. So I worked as a performer in my late teens on stage and set. So I gave a speech to the government about why they should push the bill forward. So ACTRA as well as Equity, the theatre union, and players on the other side of the table, had several performers come and speak to that bill about why they thought it mattered. So I sort of talked about my own experience and the challenges of being a young performer and the needs that the bill addressed, such as tutoring, having a guardian, all those sorts of things, and speaking to my own experience about why that mattered. So it was really exciting to get to do. Quite nervous, actually. But yeah.
You get nervous? Hard to believe. Really hard to believe.
Yeah, it was just like
you personified confidence.
It was.
You do?
Well, it was just really. I don't like typically like get really nervous for things. Sometimes you do. It was like a sort of nervous excitement that it was just. I remember though, I was last, so I heard it was like almost 2 hours, the hearing, I guess they call it. And I remember like my palms were like just like sweating, and I was hearing everyone else, and I was hearing these like amazing people, and Shirley Douglas had gone just before me. I was like, wow, that was great. And I felt really good about what I was saying. But I mean, I give this speech that was about 6 or 7 minutes long, and then the rest of my 20-minute time is all to sort of questions, and they can throw anything at you. But once I was done speaking, like I realized, yeah, I really said what I came here to say, and it was like how I treat auditions when it was done. That I was like, I did what I came there to do, and I'm happy with what I said, and I did my job. I don't need to worry about whether it was good or not. And I was really, really well received, and a lot of MPPs and other performers and actors came up to me and were really, really happy with it. You know, they recorded, and anyone can read the transcript online and think about why this bill might matter, and hopefully it goes through.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Now, before we move on to the next subject, just out of curiosity, out of all of these various award shows that you attend, I'm just curious as to which one is your favorite. And then, of course, again, the difference comparatively between the U.S. and Canada. You know, you turn on an award show, you have celebrities front, back, and sideways. So we're just curious as to, is that the same when you attend?
You know, like I have different memories from each one. Like this, I felt, you know, it's a strange thing that sometimes award shows and then things that aren't award shows but are like in that sort of vein. Like there are times in my career where I felt really awkward at them. You know, like you kind of like don't know what to do, and you're kind of standing there. You're like in a room at this industry event, and it seems like sometimes people could be mostly of a different generation than you. But I felt recently a lot more comfortable in the room and doing this thing we call networking, which is really just being yourself and revealing parts of yourself. So I had a really great time at the Actor Awards, and I also had a really great time at the Canadian Screen Awards recently. Those are the two things that I went to the most recently. But I just felt more comfortable, and, you know, you can just sort of talk to whoever, and you see more people. You know, the longer you've been doing it, the more people you see who you're in projects with, and then people are just, they're not, oh, that really high-profile person. They're just your friend or your co-star or whatever. And I've been quite moved recently at how welcoming some people have been, people that I've worked with on a few different projects, who are, you know, much different place in their career than me, much further along. I've been quite moved at how welcoming they've been, and how kind they've been in welcoming me into their world and introducing me to sort of other people. And I feel really comfortable there now. I felt that particularly at the Actor Awards and the Canadian Screen Awards, and I felt really like people appreciated what I bring to the industry, and were happy that I was there. And I felt over the last year, for the first time, I never felt like, oh, I'm just this kid staring at all these people who I think are amazing. I just sort of felt at ease, which I think kind of goes back to something that my mom told me maybe 8 months ago. I was doing a very large film with a lot of very famous people in it. And my mom had sort of said to me, you know, everyone's just people trying to navigate themselves in the world. So sort of hold on to that now, and I enjoy them all, really.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, I want to kind of flip sides again, and as anyone could surmise, Clara, of course, is sort of a mega talent that just did not arise out of nowhere. In my opinion, frequently initiation comes in the form of a dream, which then turns to desire, which then fuels and finds the drive and determination. So maybe tell us a little bit about how you discovered your dream, and that you wanted to grow up one day and start writing and create all these entertainment productions, as well as the necessities that were offered by both the University of Toronto, and I know that you attended Earl Haig Secondary School. How instrumental or how helpful they were in terms of preparing you for acting or the current profession you're in?
Right. Well, though not professionally, I've pretty much always been acting and taking acting classes basically my whole life since I was about 3 years old. I remember being, in grade 1 and saying, I want to be an actor, a writer, a ballet dancer, or like something else. And that's sort of what I said. And then like, look, here I am. So I always wanted that, but what I wanted to do professionally, I was wrestling with acting or being a lawyer in the UN for some time. I recently was at my parents' house and came across my grade 8 yearbook and I said, maybe I'll be a lawyer in the UN. Because I had this side in me, as I said earlier in the interview, I had this side in me that really thought like I had to change the world, and also that I really thought that I could. And I still think that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think that anyone can change the world, actually, for that matter. But I think that my idea of what that means has just sort of changed. I think that we can change the world by a father becoming closer to his son after a film opening up a discourse that they watch together. I think that that's changing the world in its own way too. So I wrestled with that, and then I went to an arts elementary school from grade 5 till 8. So I was really engaged in that process, and sometimes we create our own work and whatnot as well. And we did plays every year and everything, and I would do things outside of school, and I loved it. And I loved learning about other people and expressing things, and that was sort of why I loved it. I didn't think I was changing the world at that point. And then I went to Earl Hagen, the Claude Watson Arts Program, and I had even more opportunity to do that. And I started to write for the stage then. I didn't actually realize until after what I was writing about at times were things that were a lot bigger than my own experience. I'd written something unknowingly, exactly, but I'd written something about a mother with postpartum depression. I didn't realize I didn't have the label for that, but I was writing about that, and I had some strange understanding of what that was. About it, I don't really know why exactly, but somehow there's something in me that sort of understood. And I realized that the things that I was writing in general had this socio-political context to it. And I slowly realized that I could create things artistically that furthered my own agenda, which was for people to talk about things.
Right.
And then I decided, I did a play when I was 16, and I remember lying on my parents' carpet, absolutely elated on the 3rd day of the show, and being like, I know what I want. What I want to do is be an actor. That's definitely the one that I want to go with. And I remember being so filled up, and I just was like lying there. Like I must have been like a crazy person, just lying there, and I was just smiling and laughing, and I was like, yes. I never felt so complete in the work, which is a word that I really like, actually. Ken Gass, who teaches at Factory, he was the artistic director of a theater called Factory Theater, and he teaches at University of Toronto the first year. He always just sort of says things aren't good or bad, they're just complete or incomplete. So I've always sort of held on to that. And when I look back at my favorite memories working, it's when the work has been really complete. So then I went to U of T and got a lot from that and did a lot of plays there. And I went to the National Voice Intensive, which is basically 5 weeks straight of Shakespeare and voice. And slowly I started to realize, and I was doing film the whole time that I was in school. I was doing film and TV, which now I think is like absolutely crazy. I would take taxis, and then I would have to be back at school in 10 minutes. It was just insane. I can't believe that I did that. But I never missed a single full class of performance my whole degree. Yeah, I was sort of doing that the whole time. And then when I graduated, I had a bunch of film and TV on my resume by the time that I graduated, and I just kind of kept going, really. then here we are.
And it kind of spiraled from there. Just out of curiosity, because I know, of course, looking back in my career and when I first started, was there one teacher or one mentor that was most inspirational to you in terms of helping you to get where you are now, if you had to look back at it?
I don't know that I could say one. I really don't know that I could. There's so many. Sometimes it's like a phrase that someone has that sticks with you, and sometimes it's a moment of realization that sticks with you. So I don't know that I could say just one. There's so many. I feel like there was like around the time that I went to the National Voice Center, which is so many teachers, I made this realization between theater and film and TV, and realizing that they're not so different. I think before it was like, okay, now like put on your film and TV hat, now put on your theater hat. And then realizing that no matter what we do, we're just being in response. We're just breathing and being in response to the thing that the other person is saying, and it's just the breath being voiced, just your response coming out in words and breath. And realizing that that's the same for film and TV really helped me. So I don't know, that transition comes to mind, but I mean, there's so many, and there's so many different. I feel like I have a lot of different facets of my career as an artist, and there's different teachers who have influenced different sides, and then there's people after who have influenced me politically, and yeah.
There's a little bit of everybody there. I know exactly what you're talking about. I can totally relate to that. Now, I kind of want to look at you from an alternative perspective, only because a lot of times when guests come on my show, they don't realize that, yes, indeed, Clara's a real person, and that means she's a personal person. She's not just the persona that everyone thinks. And so I kind of wanted to offer a little hindsight into the Canadian that we're showcasing today. Now, I can state this much, and this is observations and looking and just digging into you a little bit. I've noticed that you revere your roommates. I've noticed that you're a harborer of health foods. You have wonderful taste in television because you watch, or you seem to like, I should say, Brothers and Sisters and Desperate Housewives, which, of course, I, too, am a fanatic to, or was, I should say. But this shocked me, and this just in, unless this has changed. You're single.
Yeah.
You're lying. I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
No, I'm not.
Have you looked at yourself? Have you looked at yourself? You are the premier package. You have brains. You have beauty. You have charisma. I don't get it. Help us out here. I don't understand. I don't get it. I just can't get it. I'm like, I just couldn't believe that. She's completely single. You just have, wow. That's amazing to me. I'm surprised. Excuse me. I'm curious to ask you, or maybe you can kind of shed a little light to the people that are listening in. When there is downtime, which I presume for you is very, very little, what are the things that you like to do? Meaning, do you revert away from your career? Meaning, I don't want to talk about TV, film, whatever have you. Do you just want to be a regular person? What happens on that downtime?
It's really funny that I created this thing with ridiculous with two of my friends that I did a show with years ago, and we'd rented a car earlier I was going to a film festival called Film North earlier. I think that's what it was. Earlier in the weekend, and then I'd come back for an audition. Then we had the Sunday off, but we still had the car. And then we decided initially that we were going to go to Shaw, which is a theater festival around Niagara Falls. And the traffic was bad, and we realized we missed the show. And we said, okay, instead what we're going to do is we're going to do absolutely nothing industry-related in any way. Like no networking, no, like, I wonder, like, how I look now, like, no, nothing industry-related at all. And we called it NIAD, which was Non-Industry Activity Day. And then we're in Shaw, and we would pass things. There'd be, like, different theater references. There'd be a book, and it would be called, like, it would be like a bookstore, and we called, like, Stage something, and we'd be like, shield your eyes. So we'd be so determined to do non-industry things. And then we did sort of goofy things, taking, ridiculous photos by the waterfall and, messing around. So I like doing things like that. It's sometimes when you do a film festival and you're there for a while, like TIFF, or when I went to SIFF in Seattle this year, the last day I remember that I was at Seattle, I took off all the, I took off the dress that I'd worn to the premiere. It was like literally half an hour after. I'm in my friend Nat's car, and I take off the dress, and I like put on a pair of like ripped jeans and a sweater, and just like how non-ready for a premiere like could I look right now? And you sort of like wipe off your makeup and you're just like whatever, and then we just took you know, goofy photos next to a wall of gum. Like it's just you just kind of want to do those things, and sometimes like I have those days sometimes when I mean I'm actually quite a girl who loves to get dressed up. I love to do the dresses. I love to, you know, do my hair and jewelry and all that sort of thing. But sometimes when you do that for a series of days, you just want to just do something that's so completely the opposite of that. You want to just sort of say, no makeup, no hair, no. So sometimes when people will invite me to something soon after, like for instance, last week was Canadian Screen Week. So this week when people have invited me to things that are like slightly industry related, I've just sort of said like, no. Like I want to just be in my night dress, in my house, just like watching silly things and on YouTube or whatever with my roommates, and just sort of completely the opposite of that. So I like to just sort of hang out with my friends and just play board games. And yeah, like I go home to my parents' house and sometimes you know, play with their dog. In the summer, I like to sort of cycle down to the lake, sort of like chill there. I like having tea parties with my friends.
Nice.
Not really a crazy party girl. I mean, yeah, I do that during award sort of season. In fact, you know, you go to all the award parties, but when it's not for industry stuff, like I'd rather just be in my house with my boys, I say, my roommates, and then a couple of the other guys who end up falling asleep on our couch and just, you know, staying up, like talking about nothing and everything is what I like, really.
Of course. That's awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about another thing that you may or may not be recognized for by the general public, or they may not know about, I should say. Anyone unfamiliar to the face of Clara can really pick up either the Performers magazine or City Voices, a book of monologues. Maybe just talk to the folks a little bit about how that came about, and of course, if they wish to obtain a copy, how that may be done.
Of City Voices? City Voices is a book of monologues by artists in Toronto. I believe it's available on Amazon, and it's also available in several libraries in Canada, and they may now be in libraries in America. So basically what it is, it's a book of monologues by Toronto artists, and three amazing women, Jenna, Anila, and Ronit, decided that they would have this big call for submissions, and they would have Toronto artists submit these monologues and they were going to be the editors of this book. So they had people sort of submit in, and then a monologue that I wrote from a play that I have in development, Vegeta, which I then made into a film, which I joke that I just turned it into a franchise instead of writing new work. But that was published in it, and it was maybe a year or so ago now that it was published. We did a bunch of sort of events related to it, and it got some really nice attention, and it's been really nice, the idea of having this book, and people are at really different stages in their careers who are published in the book. I'm obviously a lot younger than a lot of the other artists, but I have friends, and I also have mentors in the book, so it's kind of cool that it's like, oh, you're publishing this book with someone who's one of your teachers, or someone who is, you know, just sort of by chance, but it's a neat sort of way to be connected to other artists in your city. Because I think being the writing aspect of my career can be really isolating. So it's nice to have this sort of connection and to gather, and we've done readings at different bookstores, and to sort of hear playwrights read their own work aloud is not done so frequently. So that's kind of cool, and to meet people and realize how different we are, and also what we have in common. So yeah, Amazon, I believe you can get that if you're in the U.S. And then Performers magazine is a magazine that through ACTRA Toronto, they publish it. And I'm not sure if there's somewhere that you can send for a copy, but you can definitely read it online at ACTRA Toronto's website in like a PDF version or something. Yeah.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Now I want to talk a bit about activism amongst the artistic community is an action that I admire, of course, and you gratefully grab every chance to promote your friends. I know that you are co-chair, of course, of the Young Emerging Actors Assembly and co-founder of Our Town Project. So let's talk a bit. How are these organizations a benefit to your country, for one, and then maybe speak to how unionized activity helps or hurts, I should say. There's always people that are on opposite sides of the gamut, even whether it's writers, whether it's actors. Some say, yes, they do a great job for us, and others that are like, no, it's not a necessity. So maybe speak to that a bit as well.
Well, I think like unionism is so important and beneficial. For sure. I'm obviously really active in the union. I look at so many other industries where there aren't unions or where the union is really weak, and I look at it's the performers themselves that suffer. So it gives us this thing collectively to hold on to. So I think it's so important. And for me as an individual, I've seen the benefits to my own career because it's an opportunity to meet other people who care about the same things as you and can offer you support in so many ways. So I've seen the benefits to my own career directly. It makes the industry ultimately stronger because you can rally around causes that aren't even necessarily directly related only to performers, but because of all the work that ACTR does to build the industry stronger in general. It just helps the industry. It helps build the industry stronger. It helps us when we're talking. If I just went up to the government and said, I think you should definitely continue the tax credits, they'd be like, you were just like some, young performer. Like, why should I sort of listen to you? But to be able to have this body of thousands, representing thousands of performers say this, those are thousands of citizens in your province. So to be able to collectively have that energy going in is really powerful, and that's part of why I think film, the arts and culture, film and television, specifically industry in the city of Toronto, it was the second largest industry in the whole city. Like it's finance and then it's film and television. So to be able to go into arguments with that weight is really, really powerful and has tangible benefits to all of our careers, and indeed to really everyone in the country, because this is a hugely powerful industry that makes a lot of money, lots of money in revenue when shows are sold, when shows are bought, in taxes that all people pay, when the thousands and thousands of people that are employed, and unions strengthen all of that work. I think absolutely. Without unions, we'd see a very, very different industry.
And just out of curiosity, have there been particular changes that you have helped to effectuate during your tenure with this organization?
Well, I think definitely Bill 71 about child performers. That bill was first written while I was the chair, and I've been there at the various stages. I mean, it takes a really long time for the legislation to go through, and hopefully it does. But I've been there at various stages through that, and now it's going to third reading. So I was there for first reading. I was there back again for second reading. I spoke between second and third, and we'll see sort of what happens. And then there are things that we pushed for to endure. Tax credits and different things like that we pushed for them to endure, and funding for different things that we're happy to see not cut, we're happy to see sustained. And then there's things that we don't quite know yet, such as we run a lot of things on social media to try and get people tuning into Canadian shows and Canadian films and going. So we have seen numbers increase at box offices of Canadian films in their first weekend, and we know that lots of our members have attended those and have found out about them as a result of work that we've done. So even though that can seem like a small thing to fill a house on its opening weekend. It's actually really quite a big deal, because if you don't sell a lot on your first weekend, a Canadian film will only get 1 week in the theaters, and then people won't see it. So all of the effort building up to the thing, and then you only get a single week in theaters if you don't have a strong enough first weekend box office. And it's so hard because they're competing against these American films, and the whole budget of the Canadian film can be smaller than just the marketing budget on an American film. So it's really, really hard, the competition. So that type of sort of grassroots promotional work that we try to do to promote Canadian film, I've seen positive results from that in small but hopefully meaningful ways.
Of course. Now, since there are so many sides of you, I wanted to turn to maybe the film portion component of yourself. To those that are listening that don't know, your film, Pretty Thing, was shot almost completely in Ontario and went to the Cannes Film Festival. You had a second film while you're at the helm as both writer and producer, which won for Best Screenwriter at the Brantford Film Festival, which is entitled, please say it for me because I can't pronounce it.
Bijide.
Thank you.
And then another two productions. Or Bijide, yeah.
Bijide.
Sorry,
okay. And then there were another two, that's fine, productions which had to do as actress, which were Witch Slayer Gretel and the Beer Knuckle Duet. So maybe if you could talk to me a little bit about, I guess the one thing is the win, obviously, your Best Screenwriter, because I know that, or from the look of it, I should say that this wasn't something that was expected. So maybe talk a little bit about your love affair, so to speak. That's what I always call it, that the filmmaker has with the film. Tell us a little bit, summarize the film. What components do you think came or rose out of that film that made it screenwriter worthy, meaning for you to win this award, in your own opinion?
For me, that particular film, Bijide, like I've been writing, before I wrote the film, like the characters and the whole play had been in development for a really long time. Like it had been 2 or 3 years since I started developing it, and at that point, over half of the play was already written. So the characters had been with me for a long time. The play is set in St. Jamestown in Toronto, which is a neighborhood that has a lot of new immigrants. It's set the year after the Rwandan genocide, and it's about a young white school teacher and Rwandan refugee who's here with her godson. They have to find a way to see eye to eye regarding the well-being of this child. For me, I think the characters being with me so long, I knew them so well. And I've been really lucky that I'd workshopped that work multiple times already before it went to camera, and we had a lot of time that we were even making changes a couple of days before. We had more than one rehearsal because it was so indie. We were just doing rehearsals in my living room that were really beneficial, and I really discovered things as a writer, and I discovered things about where the story inside me came from, and we made sort of little changes. And I was really lucky that I had Raven Dada is just this amazing actress playing Bijide, and she sort of brings your work to life. And then Joel Keller had directed, and he'd done a really nice, nuanced job. So I think, your team makes your writing look good. Not that I don't think it's good, but I mean, they made it look pretty compelling. So it overall has been a really well-received film.
Gotcha. So, yeah. I understand. And of course, obviously, of course, she's been right to end and off and at, and of course, her screen amongst 50 million other things.
Sorry, it's going a little crazy. Can you say that again? Uh-oh. Can't hear you. Can't hear anything. Hello? 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 I'm back.
Hi.
I'm here.
This is so frustrating. Good Lord.
That's okay.
Okay. As I was saying, so obviously, of course, we talked about the visual. Speak a little bit about Pretty Thing, because I was really impressed about the fact that it was shot almost completely in Canada, which is so nice, because a lot of times films are not done of that. And I presume that's, of course, because you're a Canadian and that was a personal choice. How well received was that by Canadian audiences?
It was received really well. The filmmakers in that film sent it to a lot of different festivals. They actually won Best Emerging Filmmaker at Film North, which is a really nice film festival here, just a bit north of the city. I think they tried to just sort of tell a simple love story or love and loss sort of story. I think that they captured it really beautifully, and I think it was really easy for people to relate to, because I think that we've all sort of liked someone and for some reason it sort of didn't work out, which is kind of what it's about at its core, which is a sort of universal theme. So I think they took something universal and they created something that was really aesthetically beautiful. I think Kelly Jeffrey, the cinematographer on that, who's actually the same cinematographer on the G-Day, did a really, really lovely job as the director of photography. And I think Alicia and Matt just sort of knew what they wanted. It had some really specific images that to the actor at times on set it seemed really, really technical, actually. So sometimes it was just like, oh, like, you know, they'd be like, okay, put your hand like here, and then move like down the dress. Okay, stop. So it was strange because it seemed so technical. But when the way they've edited it all together, you do get a really nuanced and lovely piece of work. So it's it's done really well. I was shocked when it went to Cannes, not because I thought it was bad or anything, but just because it's oh my God, I can't believe this is going to Cannes. And then when they said it was going to SIFF in Seattle, I was like, oh my God, again. So it's pretty great. These sort of a lot of really great young filmmakers in Canada creating really interesting things. I think I've seen a lot of really amazing shorts, and I think there's a lot you can do in a short, and they don't always get as much attention as they should. I'd like to see Canadian shorts getting more attention than they do. I'd like to see more of them on TV, and there's some new ways of that changing with there's new video on demand platforms that are now starting to look to program more Canadian shorts to make them available to regular consumers. I think that's really, really good move, and I'd love to see more of that, really, because I've seen some amazing short films.
Now, my impression, of course, on the theater side of things is that it's illuminating because the performance aspect, it just provides for immediate recognition and spontaneity, whereas in some of the other forums, I've noticed that that's not quite the case. You participated in one, and to be specific, Firebrand is the name. So talk a little bit about your experience in theater and how that shaped you as an actor as compared to doing something television-wise, like, for instance, Murdoch Mysteries.
Right. Oh, my gosh. Well, Firebrand was just such a dream show to do. I hadn't done a play in over a year and a half. It's hard to do theater financially just because in general it doesn't pay as much money. I could do a single day on a TV show and it could end up, paying me like the whole rehearsal run of a play at times, depending on the contract.
Wow.
And it just depends. Like it takes a lot of time. Indie theater versus a single day on a TV show. So it's hard with the time, but I remember Alex Dahl had asked me to do a reading of the play in November. And very soon after the reading, he'd offered me the role in the play. And I accepted immediately because I loved it so much. I loved the character. And she said, yeah, we're going to go into rehearsal in January, February, and it's going to go up in February. And I just had the most lovely, fulfilling time doing it. The whole company was amazing. Jonathan Langley was directing it, and he was like lovely to work with. And I was just so excited to get swept. I allowed myself to get swept up in the whole thing. The play is about the Mackenzie family, the William Lyon Mackenzie family, and William Lyon Mackenzie was the first mayor of Toronto. So it's about his family. So it's kind of Canadian content. And there's also a lot of sexual content as well, mostly involving me. And it was like this exciting thing to get to play this Canadian story, but like these characters that are full of life doing these things that, like, of course, you know, they had sexual lives of their own, like they're humans before they are historical figures. So like they don't know that they're a historical figure, and you know they just know that they're a person. So Alex really made and the whole team together then working on this play really made Canadian history pretty exciting. For me, the character that I was playing was had a lot of socio-psychological, developmental challenges. So it was cool to get to explore that and to, you know, just be brave, take some risks. And I felt really, really supported by the company and my co-stars when we would try things, and then, you know, you do something and you take it back or whatnot. I felt really, really supported by the company in the work that I was doing, and I think everyone felt that, and it allowed the work to be really brave. And we had a sold-out run, and then we had an extension, and then we sold out the extension. So it was just really exciting to get to do this play in this packed little house, because we did it actually in William Lyon Mackenzie's house. And the audience kind of moved around with the work, so it was super intimate in a way. It kind of had a cinematic feel to it because the audience was literally an inch away from you, so it was kind of like you were doing a close-up. It was a very consuming show. It was an exhausting show. I would sort of come home days when we would do certain scenes that were really emotionally difficult, and I would just fall asleep at 5 p.m. But it was absolutely worth it. Yeah, it was just so, because you're doing the same. I discovered a lot about discovery doing it because it had been a while since I'd done a play. You discover something, and then you go back to it the next day, and then it gets richer, and you go back to it the next day, and it gets richer, and you're going deeper and deeper each day. So your most challenging scene is not, okay, good, now we're shot that, now we shoot the rest of the movie, which is what it would be like if you're doing a film. It's like, okay, now we discovered that, now tomorrow we're going to do that all again. So like that level of exhaustion like may just like be hitting you right again, sort of thing. But it's exciting too that if you do something on stage and like it doesn't completely work, you're like, okay, well, let's do something different tomorrow. So that element was really exciting to get to play with, trying new things and constantly yes, discovering and rediscovering and reconnecting the dots every night. And you discover things partway through a run, and you're like, oh, how did I not realize that before? But like, that's okay, you have it now. Rather than thinking, when you shoot a film, sometimes you think something, you're like, oh, and maybe you discover something in a dream like a week after you've shot a scene, and you're, oh, that's sort of too bad because you already shot it. With here, if you discover something a week later in a dream, you get to put it in the next night.
Oh, so, how cool is that? Hey? Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Now, the last thing I wanted to cover with you, which I don't think people know about, and this is another one of your projects, which is, of course, SheWorld, which is targeted to your tween or teen or tween audience. Talk a little bit about that and let individuals know about how you came up with that concept and when we can expect to see something, because I know you did first season, correct? Yeah. So the SheWorld is a mini-series for a teen audience that I sort of created actually because I was in a room that I don't even know why I was completely in this
in this room, but the executive director or the head of a studio was there, and they were looking for pitches for short format TV miniseries. I didn't have anything at the time, but I said, "Can I email you?" He said, "Sure." So I went home and was like, "Okay, better come up with like a series now. Like have this in, come up with a series." So I came up with something. He said, "No, we absolutely can't shoot that. We don't have the budget for that. You can't have that." And I said, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Come back to me with something else." So then I revamped what I was thinking of, and I came up with the She World. So basically what the She World is it's a show that I host, and I meet with a woman in a traditionally male career path. So for instance, we had someone who was a software developer. We had someone who was an arborist. So I meet with them, I talk with them, and then I get a challenge that comes down from the sky in a red envelope. I open the envelope, and then I have to do some challenge related to their career, which sometimes they help me with. And then that's pretty much the show. So it's, for me, basically it's a feminist show for tween and teen girls, because I wanted them to feel like, wanted young girls to feel like they could do and be anything, because that's kind of, I grew up thinking that because my mother told me that I could. And I had a lot of amazing female role models in my own career. But I knew that not every kid grew up in that environment. And there were things that people thought that they couldn't be. So I wanted to put that on screen so that they'd feel like they could. And we filmed it in a really cool way, in that the studio had this partnership, or grant of some kind, that they had a bunch of young people working, doing internship type things in the studio. So when I initially pitched the show, the head of the studio said, "Yes, but you have to pitch it now to these teenagers." So I pitched the show, to a bunch of these teenagers, and he said, if they say, one of them says yes, then your show is, if one of them wants you to be their producing mentor, then the show is greenlit. So I sort of pitched the show, and one of them said, yes, I absolutely do want to do it, and I was like, great. And then we sort of went forward and did it, and we had a bunch of young people working on the show with their mentors, so that was really exciting. It was always really important to me that we had at least one other young woman in the room on one of the cameras. Yeah, they got to feel sort of empowered doing the show, and then the content of the show is hopefully empowering too, so they kind of went hand in hand. Yeah.
Gotcha. Of course. And you know, it's just clear to me, it's just amazing me every time, and everything we've been talking about today. There's TV, there's film, there's theater. Is there any other thing on this list you haven't done that you want to do?
Well, you know, I think there are definitely still things that I haven't done. Like I wanted to do animation, so I wrote an animated film and produced that. Right now I'm writing my first feature. So I think that's many months down the road, but I'd like to shoot that. But writing in itself is a new thing for me. I think I'm doing new things all the time, really. And it's an exciting thing to be able to do. I think the feature is probably next. But in some ways, every time you sort of step on stage or set and play a new character, in some ways that's a new thing every time too. So I'm glad for those. Yeah.
And it was such a success. I am nothing short of 100% in awe and impressed. I was impressed before I even interviewed you. I'm even more impressed with the depth and the passion and the perspective that you bring. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. Two things here. I didn't want to forget to mention this. You, of course, have a Facebook page, personal page. You are on Twitter, and that is @Clara, and I'll spell your last name, since most people may not know how to do that. That's Pasieka. You, of course, have a profile on IMDb. Your actual website, Clara.workbooklive.com. Are there any other places that people can find you? social media-wise or otherwise, that they should know about?
No, not really. I'd say like if people want to connect and talk about the work or connect with other organizations, like something like Twitter or something is probably the best place at Clara Pasieka. I also, the short films that we have that are going to real world through Yeah, we have another Twitter handle, which is Yeah Shorts, YEAA Shorts. They can stay updated on what all of the films in the collective are up to and the successes that some of them are still having from last year's films. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Gotcha. So the last thing that I get to do, which is always my favorite part of the day, which is, first of all, I wanted to again apologize for the 2 times that we've had such a difficult time trying to get together on this show. It's not always this difficult. I know it's just lately, this past 6 months, my life's kind of been in a tailspin. So it's like, I finally got her. So even though it was a Saturday, we got it done. So I'm excited. The last thing that I always do on my show is try to just give an introspective listening audience in terms of what I've gathered about my guests. So this is kind of my time to tell you what I think of you and for you not to say anything. So I'll just give my perspective on that. I think overall in general, and like I said, you and I have not spoken very often outside of this interview, but what I have found is exactly what I started saying. You're a refreshing, young activist in your community, and first and foremost, I'm a huge supporter of an individual who stands up for what they believe in and what they enjoy and what their passions are, and also does that so eloquently for other individuals, which you've opted to do at a very young age, which is not a virtue or anything that we see a lot of times here in the United States, which I just commend you for, first and foremost. Second of all, you have such a gift of the written word, and I say that not just because of the fact that you've been recognized by your industry, but it's just clear and simple by the things that I've watched, by the things that I've heard, just the way you present and carry yourself. It's magnanimously impressive to me, and it's impressive to others in your community. You are well-liked and well-received by the people that know you. Your industry and your country acknowledge you, not just because they hand you an award, but just because you're so lovely and pleasant. You're dainty, you're sweet, you're humble, you're gratuitous to the individuals that you know have helped you to accumulate the awards, and when I say awards, I don't mean just professionally, but also personally in your life. I think that you're just breathtakingly beautiful, and I don't say that to everybody. Or maybe it's because I'm old and I don't look that great anymore. But I think that your best representation is in every word you've ever written, in every performance that you've ever given to us, and that's whether it's the United States or in Canada. And I know I just have this whole huge, I can see this beacon of light coming. And one day you're going to find yourself on an Oscar stage accepting an award for something that is just over the top wonderful. I'm very impressed and very fortunate to know you. I hope that when I come to Canada in May, I'll be able to stand in front of you and actually see a production or actually get to meet you. And certainly in the future, if you need anything, you can come back on the show anytime you like.
Thank you so much. That's lovely. Thank you. That's very lovely.
You're welcome. Of course. It's taken a while to get to this point, but this is just, like I said, these are my overall impressions. I wanted to kind of leave you with that, certainly. And just so that you know, of course, once we hang up, this show becomes an archived episode, so anybody can come back on here at any point in time and listen to it all year round. And I'll post up all your information at another point in time, because soon I'll be leaving myself to another engagement. But I hope you enjoy your weekend, and it was a pleasure to talk to you, and I hope to do so again.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Thank you so much.
Oh, not a problem at all. You have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye now. Okay, folks, wasn't Clara absolutely wonderful? She's just, like I said, a breathtaking talent. She is young, she is sweet, she is just capable and just lovely. Again, I want to reiterate, she has a Facebook page, personal one. She has an IMDb profile, and that's clara.workbooklive.com. And she's also on Twitter, and that's at Clara and spelled Pasieka. Once again, I want to say thanks again so very much to our guest today for accommodating me in such a very lovely fashion, because I know it must have been very frustrating. Monday is St. Patrick's Day, so as it stands right now, I don't believe that I'm going to have a show yet, but with me, you never know. So just kind of keep posted. We might very well get lucky and end up having Mr. Sharknado on the show. But who knows, we'll have to see. So right now, I want to say happy St. Patrick's Day early to all of my Irish folk, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Have a great weekend.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really? Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really? Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.